If first person is I and third person is they, then what's second person? Ask most people and they'll point to a game like this. A perspective from a secondary character on your playable character. That's the common answer, and it's also wrong. Here's what I believe. Second person isn't a camera position at all. It was never something sitting between first and third. In fact, it's not a perspective, it's a narrative relationship. And it only really exists in the moment a game stops addressing your character and starts addressing you as the player. To get there, I think we need to untangle a confusion that's been baked into how we talk about this kind of stuff. The confusion between grammatical person and camera perspective. Let's look at what those grammatical persons actually are. In writing, the first person uses I, me, and my. The third person uses he, she, and they. And in this medium, there is an established second person too, you and your. The confusion begins the moment we try to map one of these onto a camera position. Those are just fundamentally not equivalent comparisons. A first-person game really just means you play from the perspective of the character. A third-person game means you play from the perspective of an outside entity, whether that be another character or an invisible floating camera watching your character. So by that definition alone, the footage I showed you a second ago isn't second person at all, it's third. Camera position was never the right axis to measure this on, which means that pronoun and perspective can come apart. You can have a first-person narrative told through a first-person camera. The character says I, and you see through their eyes, everything lines up. But you can just as easily have a first-person narrative running through a third-person camera. Picture a game shot entirely from over the character's shoulder. No question that's third-person perspective, but the character has a constant internal voice that narrates I and me. The character says third person, but the narrative says first. They're not the same axis, they just usually happen to agree, which is exactly why people mix them up. So the real question isn't what does a second-person camera look like, it's what does a second-person narrative look like. The Stanley Parable. But it's entirely in a first-person perspective. Yes, buddy, but narratively, this is a solid example of a true second-person game. If you've played it, or watched someone play it, you know the whole game is built around defining the narrator. And when you do, something happens to the pronouns. The narrator stops saying Stanley, and he starts saying you. He's not talking about the character anymore. He's talking to the person controlling the character. It's not Stanley playing the game, it's you. This really hits home in the not Stanley ending. Eventually, the narrator drops the pretense entirely and commits to the fact that you were never Stanley. You're a separate person who's just been steering him around. And from that point on, everything is spoken in second person. So here's where I land. A game is only truly second person when it breaks the fourth wall. When the you on screen stops referring to the character you're controlling and starts referring to you. I specifically mean starts referring to you because there are plenty of games that say you as a pronoun referring to the character. The Stanley Parable does this through the narrator. But a game like Undertale is another example of a second person game that does so through memory. If you've played Undertale, you know the game keeps track of things across save files. Reset the game and certain characters remember. In the genocide route, the game doesn't just react to what your character Frisk did, it reacts to what you did. It knows you're the one making the choices, resetting the timeline and replaying fights. By the end, characters aren't addressing Frisk anymore, they're addressing the player sitting outside controlling everything. That's the same move Stanley Parable makes, just built out of a completely different mechanic, persistent memory instead of a narrator's voice. Which is the point. Second person isn't a camera trick or a narration gimmick, it's what happens when a game acknowledges that there's someone outside the fiction actually playing it. So no, second person was never a camera angle. It's the moment the fourth wall is broken, the moment the game stops talking about the person you're pretending to be and starts talking to the person actually holding the control.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Huge thanks to Daniel Jang, Vincent is Vibing, Jeremy Allen Crow, Someone, Jade Sneck, F141, Lucian Rambo Road, and Wizard Mage for supporting me. If you want to join them, check out the link in the description to buy me a coffee. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing. Bye bye!